Liam Brady was born not just into a family, but into the heartbeat of Dublin, where football wasn't a mere game, it was an obsession. Raised on the streets of Ireland's capital, he didn't just play the game, he lived it. Every alley, every corner, every cracked pavement was his training ground. And while most kids spent their days in search of adventure, Brady found it with a ball at his feet. The boy who would later rise to dominate the midfield of some of Europe's most prestigious clubs was first honed in the shadows of Dublin's quietest streets, where every dribble was a promise of something more. But it wasn't just the city that shaped him, it was his father, a man who had lived football in his veins, instilling in Liam not just a love for the game, but a sense of discipline and a vision that would later define his career. As a young boy, Brady's feet were always busy. Whether it was kicking around with his brothers or in the local parks, football was more than an activity. It was the very pulse of his existence. His father's teachings echoed in the back of his mind. It wasn't enough to play, you had to dominate, to control the game, to dictate its rhythm. By the time he joined Crusaders FC at the age of 12, his potential was undeniable. But it wasn't just skill that separated Brady from the pack, it was his intelligence. In an era where brute force often won matches, Brady was a rare breed. He didn't just react, he anticipated. He didn't simply follow the game, he orchestrated it. It was no surprise when, at just 15 years old, a call came that would forever change the trajectory of his life. Arsenal wanted him, and for Brady, this was the moment. A young lad from the streets of Dublin, about to leave the quiet confines of his home for the world's biggest stage. Could he succeed? The whispers of doubt only fueled his fire. At just 15, when most of his peers were still navigating schoolyards and childhood dreams, Liam Brady found himself standing on the precipice of greatness. Arsenal, one of the most storied football clubs in the world, saw the raw brilliance of the young Irishman and brought him into their fold. But joining a club like Arsenal wasn't merely about talent. It was about navigating the immense pressure that came with playing for a top-tier team. From the very start, Brady was a force to be reckoned with. His debut at the age of 17 wasn't just a personal triumph, it was a statement to the world. He wasn't here to play a supporting role. He was here to lead, to control the tempo of every game. The midfield was his domain, and with every touch, he reminded the world that a prodigy had arrived. But the weight of expectation quickly began to bear down on him. Could a young man from Dublin truly rise to the occasion and carry the legacy of such a prestigious club? The answer was a resounding yes. Brady's talent was undeniable, but what set him apart from other rising stars was his vision. He wasn't just playing football. He was thinking 3 steps ahead, reading the game like a chess master. His style was elegance in motion, effortless, but with an edge that made every pass, every movement, a thing of beauty. But he wasn't just about flair. Behind the artistry, there was a relentless hunger, a desire to prove himself. Under the guidance of manager Terry Neal, Brady's potential blossomed into something extraordinary. His influence on the field became undeniable, his ability to unlock defenses with a single pass, transforming Arsenal's attacking play. But success didn't come easily. There were challenges, both on and off the pitch. A series of injuries threatened to derail his rise, testing his resolve and forcing him to find new ways to adapt. It was in these moments of adversity where Brady's true character shone through. He wasn't just overcoming physical pain, he was mastering his mindset, learning to thrive in the most difficult of circumstances. And when the whispers of doubt surfaced, asking whether Brady could carry Arsenal to glory, he answered with his performances. The 1978-79 season, with Brady at the heart of it all, would go down in history. Arsenal wasn't just a team anymore. They were a force, and Brady, their maestro. In 1980, at the peak of his powers, Liam Brady's career took a dramatic turn. Juventus, the giants of Italian football, came knocking. The offer was one every player dreams of, a move to one of the most successful clubs in Europe. But Brady wasn't just joining a new team, he was stepping into a world that would challenge him in ways he never imagined. Leaving Arsenal behind was no easy decision. He was a symbol of the club, its heartbeat in the midfield, and the very face of their future. But as with all great players, there comes a moment when you must test yourself beyond familiar shores. Juventus was a club built on a rich history, where the weight of tradition, success, and unrelenting pressure hung in the air. When Brady arrived in Turin, Italy's football culture presented a new kind of intensity. The tactical sophistication of Serie A was light years away from the more free-flowing nature of English football. Brady, known for his creativity and flair, was now immersed in a system that demanded discipline, precision, and total control. Could he adapt to this highly structured, defensive-minded league without sacrificing his artistry? The answer came swiftly. Brady was no longer the young prodigy. He had transformed into a battle-hardened veteran. Juventus, with its legion of elite players and a manager like Giovanni Trapattoni, demanded the best from its stars, and Brady delivered. He became the orchestrator, weaving his vision through the rigid tactical setup, making his passes seem effortless even when surrounded by chaos. The Italian game was about strategy, patience, and waiting for the perfect moment, and Brady was the master of this art. But even in his brilliance, the reality of competing at the highest level took its toll. The intense scrutiny of Italian media, the ever-present expectations, and the immense pressure of playing for a club like Juventus pushed Brady to his limits. The early struggles of settling into Serie A were real, but Brady, ever resilient, adapted to his surroundings, mastering the intricacies of the Italian game. During his time in Turin, Brady won a Serie A title, solidifying his legacy as one of the best midfielders of his generation. But the move to Juventus was not just about titles. It was about reinvention. It was about showing the world that no matter how much the landscape changes, the core of a champion never does. In 1982, just 2 years after his high-profile move to Juventus, Liam Brady found himself back in familiar territory. The lure of returning to Arsenal, a club that had once defined his career, was too strong to resist. But this time, things had changed. The young star who had once been the heartbeat of Arsenal's midfield was now a seasoned, worldly player returning to a team that had gone through its own transformations. Brady's return wasn't simply about nostalgia. It was about bringing his invaluable experience back to the team. Despite his success in Italy, Arsenal's need for a leader, a playmaker with the experience of conquering Europe, was undeniable. The expectations placed on Brady's shoulders were immense. Could he rekindle the magic that had made him an Arsenal legend in the first place? From the very beginning, it was clear Brady hadn't lost his touch. His passes, always weighted perfectly, resumed finding their targets with the precision of a master craftsman. His composure under pressure, cultivated through years in Italy, became his defining trait. Yet there was something different in his approach, an added depth, a new level of calm and control that only came from years of competing on the grandest stages. Arsenal's young talents now had someone to look up to, a mentor who had seen the best and worst of world football. Brady's experience was invaluable to a squad that, while talented, lacked the grit and wisdom of a seasoned veteran. His leadership, both on and off the pitch, lifted the team in ways statistics couldn't measure. Arsenal's transition from struggling to contender in the 1980s was, in part, due to the steadying presence of their returning hero. However, despite Brady's technical brilliance and leadership, the team's performances often didn't match expectations. The club was still searching for its identity, and Brady found himself once again carrying the weight of a club in flux. Yet even as Arsenal endured tough seasons, Brady's impact on the club was clear. His role in shaping future generations, in teaching young players the art of football, was his lasting legacy. As his playing days drew to a close, Brady had given Arsenal everything he had. His return wasn't just a chapter in his career, it was a culmination of the journey he had taken, from the streets of Dublin to the highest peaks of European football. It was a reminder that greatness doesn't fade, it evolves. As Liam Brady's career neared its end, the football world stood in awe of the journey he had taken. It wasn't just his achievements on the pitch that defined him, but his journey, a path marked by resilience, elegance, and a commitment to football that transcended the game itself. Brady's departure from Arsenal in 1990 was not just the end of a chapter for the club, but the closing of a chapter in English football history. In his final seasons, Brady's performances were no longer at the peak of his career. Yet he still commanded the respect of players, fans, and critics alike. It wasn't about the goals or assists anymore. It was about the legacy of a player who had touched the very soul of the game. His technical mastery, his vision, and his leadership on and off the field were the true markers of his greatness. The end of his playing career marked the beginning of a new journey, this time as a coach and mentor. Yet even in his transition to coaching, Brady never fully left the game that had shaped his life. He became a symbol of longevity, demonstrating that the love of the game doesn't necessarily have to end when the boots are hung up. Arsenal fans who had once watched him as a young star in the 1970s now watched him pass the torch to a new generation. But there was a sense of bittersweet nostalgia in the air. How do you replace a legend? How do you fill the void left by a man who had given so much to the club? These questions lingered long after Brady's final whistle. As his playing career concluded, Brady's contribution to football, particularly to Arsenal, was undeniable. He had helped define an era, influenced future generations, and left a legacy that would never be forgotten. The man who had once arrived at Highbury as a young boy, with the weight of Ireland's expectations on his shoulders, left as a hero, revered not just for his skill, but for the character he brought to the sport. In many ways, Brady's career wasn't about the trophies or the accolades. It was about the impact he made on the hearts of fans, players, and the very culture of football. And in the end, that's what makes a legend. Liam Brady's legacy extends far beyond the football pitch. His name is synonymous with quality, class, and the kind of football that touches the hearts of those who appreciate artistry in sport. He was and remains a symbol of excellence, a reminder that football, at its core, is not just about competition, but also about passion, precision, and the beauty of the game. As Arsenal's midfield maestro, Brady showed that football is an art form. His passing range, vision, and ability to control the tempo of a match made him a rare breed in the footballing world. Even after all these years, Brady's influence on the game remains palpable. His style has influenced countless players, and his philosophy has shaped how we view the role of a midfielder. He wasn't just a creator, he was a revolutionary. But perhaps what makes his legacy so enduring is the connection he had with the fans. Brady wasn't just a player, they saw him as one of their own. He represented the spirit of the club, its history and its ambitions. Arsenal fans, even in today's era, speak of him with reverence, not merely as a footballer, but as an embodiment of their footballing ideals. Off the pitch, Brady continued to impact the football world, transitioning into coaching and punditry, where his insights into the game were just as profound. He became a voice for the next generation of players and fans, teaching them not just about football, but about the heart and soul of the sport. Today, Liam Brady is not only remembered as one of Arsenal's greatest players, but also as one of the greatest ambassadors the game has ever seen. He remains a living testament to the idea that football is more than just a sport. It is a way of life, an art, and a passion that binds us all together. His name will forever echo in the annals of football history, not just for what he achieved on the pitch, but for the way he changed the game for the better. The story of Liam Brady is not just a story of a footballer, it's the story of football itself. A beautiful, timeless journey that continues to inspire, excite, and connect fans across the globe. Liam Brady's journey proves that greatness isn't just measured in trophies, but in the mark left on the game and those who watch. His legacy endures, reminding us of the artistry and passion that define football. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into Brady's remarkable story, make sure to subscribe for more insights into the lives of football's true icons. Until next time, keep your love for the game alive.